Hello everyone, my name is Matt Scorpion, and welcome back to being a little bit annoyed that GMG isn't there. So aside from that, I'm happy with this article. Like, the article brought good news, but I gotta admit it's messing up my flow because I'm so used to just a extra long twab every here and then, just every Thursday once new seasons come around. But now I'm having to make videos for a article on Wednesday and then a shorter twab on Thursday. So I mean, but what can I say? But going into it, so this is going to be the weapons and sandbox tuning that's going to be going into the next season. This is going to be broad strokes. There is some minute details. There are some things we should have been expecting, and some interesting stuff based on other changes coming to how subclasses will work in the future. You'll learn what I mean about that soon. But getting into the gist of it, so they enabled the red reticle now on PC, which if you didn't know what that was, when playing on console, the reticle will actually turn red when it's over an enemy and inside effective weapon range. So red reticle is now enabled on PC as well. Then into the first straight off thing. Linear fusion rifles are being nerfed. They are getting reduced damage versus champions, mini-bosses, and bosses, including vehicles, by 15% overall. Ouch. Then as well, but on the good side, Sleeper Simulant and Queensbreaker are, however, ineffective. So Sleeper Simulant might still be the go-to choice. I know I've been using it for a while. So we all saw that coming. Linear Fusion Rifles has been the DPS king what seems to be for the entire year. So, you know, we get to do something else now. But then, at the same time, machine guns. Increased damage by 10% with the following effects on time to kill against a Guardian with tier 6 resilience. Basically, a variety of time to kill updates. Increased reserve ammo by 50% at 0 inventory stat and 20% at 100. Note, inventory stat is a 0 to 10 value behind the scenes. This is printed as the actual number of rounds in game. But you can take this to a mean of low reserves and machine guns getting a big boost, while large reserve machine guns getting a smaller boost. So basically, machine guns with little ammo get more. So high impact frames are going to have a lot more ammo. Rapid fire frames are still going to have more, but just not as much. And adaptive somewhere in the middle. So what does that mean? It basically hopefully means that machine guns are just going to be, better. In addition to a just general 10% buff, I'm hoping that Xenophage and Grand Overture and some of the slower machine guns are quite good. But then, as well, for heavy grenade launchers, which have been out of meta for quite a while since what seems to be Season of Opulence, when Swarm of the Raven was the thing to use against Galron, but increased damage versus champions, mini-bosses, bosses, and vehicles by 20% and miners by 40%. Hopefully that means that they can actually one-shot things in Grandmasters if they're up to date. They improved the projectile collision, making it slightly easier to land hits in general. The blast radius has been increased by a meter. However, Parasite is ineffective. It does huge damage already. So I think they're already covering their basics. I think the last time they did a heavy launcher buff, Parasite was not addressed, so Parasite was doing nuts damage. But then shotguns are getting adjusted a little bit. The shotgun reticle will now change in size and proportion to the spread angle. Related notes, the Legend of Acrea's hipfire reticle is now a bit more representative of its very large spread angle. Basically, that's saying if you're like sliding, jumping, reticles will adjust a little bit more to actually represent their spread in game. Now, kinetic weapons. They're getting some tuning. So, kinetic weapon primary damage multiplier is being increased from 1.05 to 1.11. The kinetic special weapon damage multiplier is going up from 1.05 to 1.15. Kinetic slash stasis weapons no longer have the 5% damage bonus versus unshielded targets in PvE. And there's also a kinetic damage type perk coming in Lightfall. I'm assuming to be like incandescent or repulsor brace, something like that. But as well, if in case you didn't know, kinetic weapons have always done 5% more damage versus an unshielded target in the PvE. That means that basically kinetic slash stasis weapons were straight up better. Stuff like that. So, and to exotics. Now, they're doing a lot of tweaking, and including to update for the future, like how subclasses are getting intrinsic into champion. There's other things going there, too. Queenbreaker's blinding effect was underwhelming for a heavy weapon, so change it that it's deployed. Note that Queenbreaker was also not affected by the global damage reduction to linear fusion rifles, making it substantially stronger by comparison. The shots now chained to nearby enemies using Arc 3.0 blind. So it does have some additional synergy to subclasses. I know I tried this for Arc 3.0 blinding builds for a time, but it now actually applies Arc 3.0 blind, so it can have synergy with Arc subclasses now. Ruinous Effigy is getting updated, so the Transmutation Slayer Slam attack will now suppress enemies when it goes. which, while dangerous in higher end content, could definitely be worth it for some brief stuff, if anyone still uses Ruinous Effigy. Now, apparently people are still sleeping on Leviathan's Breath, which how dare they, considering I love using that thing. But now, anti-champion. Leviathan's Breath will now apply Volatile on Perfect Draw Impact, similar to Layman Arc. Increased damage from 396 to 442, this allowed to one-hit anything in PvP, supers and all, and increasing damage versus champions by 30%. Now, I need people to understand what this means. Leviathan's Breath is not only getting a damage buff against champions, it was already intrinsically unstoppable, but now applying Volatile on a Perfect Draw, if I remember correctly, now also makes it anti-barrier. Because I think Volatile was one of those, it's either a anti-barrier or overload, because I know Volatile is anti-champion in some way come Lightfall. So now Leviathan's Breath is intrinsically ×2 champion anti. So there's that. Now, as well, no, that's wrong. 1,000 Voices, that was out of meta for a while, but now each explosion applies 10 Scorch stacks and 15 with Ember of Ashes. So, basically, if you can get all shots on target, you can likely, with the, at least if I recall, with the Ember of Ashes perked, you will be able to trigger an ignition right on direct line. So, yeah. That sounds awesome. Plus, also, ignitions, if I recall, are also unstoppable, or anti-unstoppable during Lightfall. So that means 1,000 Voices is intrinsically unstoppable as well. Technically. Now, as well, Sunshot is getting something similar. Basically, Explosion on kill now applies Scorch in its near area, which is great. So now that has built-in incandescent, basically. Same with Polaris Lance, a Polaris which I'm so happy for. I was so excited for this when Solo 3.0 and disappointed when it didn't happen. But basically, Polaris Lance always had a burn effect, so it was an obvious change to switch this to Scorch. Now the perfect fifth shot that applies burn effects now does 40 or 60 stacks instead of its own custom burn. So now, Ignite with the explosive Polaris Lance. I'm so happy about that. That's going to become a regular thing in my solar builds now. Two-Tailed Fox had tough competition as exotic weapon, specifically exotic heady, but now can apply subclass verbs for multiple damage types without taking extra steps. The Solar Rocket will now nearly ignite on hit, either 60 or 30, so applying anything. And the Void Rocket already applies Suppress, and the Catalyst will now complete the trifecta. Whether that means that it will also jolt something, add a third rocket or something, Two-Tailed Fox about to be nuts. Prometheus Lens had utility with the 3.0 rework, so now it also applies Incandescent with the Catalyst specifically. And Grand Overture has been updated to also apply Blind on its missiles, specifically Arc Blind, so that can also synergize with Arc subclasses. Now, they are also experimenting with hipfire weapon reticles, conveying more information, and use the Manticore as a testbed for this. You can expect to see more weapon type or exotic functionality showing up in hipfire reticles, added a reticle element of the Manticore, allowing current extents of anti-cover repulsor. As well, perks. Osmomancy, no, that's wrong. Osmosis now can work with Strand. Specifically, Elemental Capacitor will now also give plus 20 airborne effectiveness, plus 25 for the air enhanced version of Elemental Capacitor. Which, as well, they're reworking rewind rounds to work on non-vaulted glass weapons, so expect that to be in the wild, the more like the way Reconstruction is in more in the wild. Now, Eager Edge has been adjusted a little bit. Basically, no longer deactivates when moving faster than a certain amount, so you can, I guess, Eager Edge still while flying. Deactivates correctly after a single melee swing, reduced the base lunge distance a little bit, and reduced airborne lunge distance penalty from 25 to 20%, so I think that means you can lunge farther midair. And then the enhanced perk now increases lunge distance slightly back up to 2.0. So generally it has less, but the enhanced version will improve it. So they also renamed blinding grenades on grenade launchers to disorienting grenades. So I'm assuming that's to not confuse them with Arc 3.0 blind. So there we go. Vice Stinger, also getting a little bit of a nerf considering it was the king to linear fusions being OP. That now also makes it so it's only a quarter reload as opposed to a full reload. And so, of course, as a ending bit, they are already hard at work on the next 2 seasons going forward, and some changes as well as full auto, melee accessibility, and other stuff. A pass over weapon type and exotic hit weapon hipfire reticles. including increasing how visible they change even in high FOV, and adding things like charge meters and exotic perk counters. We also got balance changes in the works, but it's a little too early to get into them. More information post Lightfall. So hopefully we can get those like the week after Lightfall drops. But nothing but positive changes in my mind. Now I know everyone's gonna at the fact that I said that linear fusion rifle nerf is a positive change, but come on. I was getting so tired of every single raid team that wasn't lean back like I am, trying to use everything non-meta as possible. I was so tired of pulling out literally a linear fusion rifle for everything. On that note, my name is Matt Scorpion, and thank you for watching.